Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dwayne Brown. San Diego City Council has approved an ordinance on the retail sale of puppies, kittens, and rabbits. The bill says the animals must come from shelters or pet rescue organizations, and stores would have to keep documentation on where the animals come from. The code change does not apply to small breeders. Humane Society and other animal welfare groups say the law is needed to stop the spread of puppy mills. City officials say there are only 2 retail stores in San Diego that are affected. City Council also passed a resolution asking the Defense Department to keep the Miramar Air Show going this year. There are no official plans to cancel it, but city staff says the Pentagon also has not granted permission to hold it. But other air shows around the country have been grounded because of federal budget cuts. The Blue Angels' planned appearance at Miramar has already been scuttled. City leaders say the air show creates $17 million in spending. This year's show is scheduled for the first weekend in October. Federal prosecutors want the military's highest court to reconsider its decision overturning a murder conviction in an Iraq war crimes case. Marine Sergeant Lawrence Hutchins was found guilty in the 2006 shooting of a civilian. He's been in and out of the brig at Miramar as the case has made its way through military courts. Last month, his conviction was overturned on grounds his rights were violated when he was first arrested. Prosecutors say Hutchins waived his right to a lawyer. Big change tonight in the Padres front office. The president and CEO, Tom Garfinkel, has stepped down. The team's not saying why. He actually became president and CEO when sports agent Jeff Morad tried to buy the Padres. The deal fell apart, and a different group bought the team. His job will temporarily be taken over by Ron Fowler, a member of the new ownership group. The Padres are at the bottom of the National League West with 40 wins and 50 losses. Firefighters say more than 100 cabins have been destroyed by the Chariot Fire burning near Mount Laguna in the Far East County. Many of them belong to the Albar Shrine campground. Some facilities dating back to the 1920s were also destroyed. The fire is still burning. Chariot Fire reminds us of the importance of being prepared for a disaster, but what do you do after the flames are out? Peggy Pico talks with a San Diego author who has some practical tips.
Joining me with practical ways to cope with catastrophe after the fact is my guest Sean Scott, author of the book, The Red Guide to Recovery. And Sean, thanks very much for joining us. Now, you were a fire restoration contractor for more than 30 years. What motivated you to write this book?
Well, it was just the aftermath of everything that I ever saw, doing restoration. Seeing people, completely in chaos, not knowing who to trust, what to do, and people taken advantage of. Primarily after the 2003 and 2007 wildfires is when we really saw people, disaster survivors, evolving into disaster victims.
From scams, from missed opportunities, from what?
Well, from scams, from not knowing how to navigate the insurance claim process, from, disposing of hazardous materials improperly. It's just enormous, the pitfalls that follow a disaster. And people didn't know what to do or where to turn.
Firefighters throughout the state actually have your book on their fire trucks. What are they doing with it?
Well, it's been adopted by the state of California. We got a grant through the California Emergency Management Agency. And they are now putting it on the fire trucks, in a lot of areas so that they have a resource. So when the fire department's getting ready to leave, disaster area, or even if it's a single home fire, the homeowner typically says, what do I do now? And it used to be, well, call your insurance agent. Mm-hmm. Well, now they have something tangible to hand them that they can put in their hands.
Like a workbook.
Yeah, that they can take back and read it and get on a level playing field with what they're going to have to go through in the weeks and days that follow.
Now, I know there's a quick start checklist for that first 24 hours, which is rather crucial. What are some of the key points in that 24-hour checklist you have?
Well, the first thing is contact the Red Cross. Find out where your family members are. They have the Safe and Well website that you can log into to find out, if there's displaced loved ones, where they are. And then it's just, you're going to be approached by so many people from the street who want to clean up the debris or do the construction or represent you against your insurance company. That's not a time to sign contracts or make hasty decisions. So part of the Quick Start Guide is warning people not to move too quickly.
You also delve into some deeper subjects on that as far as finding temporary residence, leaving the scene, talking to your insurance adjuster. Give us a few highlights from that.
Well, you're going to deal with your insurance company once, if you have insurance, and they're going to come out and help you through the process. And so you want to give them a chance to make you whole, which means, don't sign contracts with public insurance adjusters, attorneys, anything like that hastily, because you want to have a time to, think things through and talk to friends, get good advice, and navigate it step by step.
Right. Don't panic, in other words. Also in your book is this memory jogger. What's a memory jogger?
Memory jogger is a companion to the book, which is an Excel spreadsheet that has about 6,000 of the most commonly found household items. And so in the event of a disaster, if your house burns to the ground, your adjuster is going to ask you for an inventory of everything that you had in the house. Well, this spreadsheet is something that you can download for free, and it's already pre-populated with everything you can think of that would be in a kitchen, a bedroom, a bathroom, a garage. And so now you just delete what doesn't apply to you or add in items that maybe don't exist, and you can price it, and you've finished your inventory.
And where should you keep that?
Well, on a flash drive, you can put it on multiple flash drives, you can email it to yourself, you can keep it in the cloud. There's a lot of ways to...
Someplace where it won't get destroyed.
Right.
All right. The focus of this book is on fires. Can it be applied to other disasters?
Yeah, the focus of the book actually is all hazard, which means it can apply to tornado, hurricane, flood, fire, or earthquake, anything, any type of natural or man-made disaster where you'd be displaced.
You have a couple samples here now. These have actually been customized. Tell us about the customization.
Yeah, well, so government agencies, counties, or large corporations, we can customize the book specifically to cater to your needs, which means we can put different logos on the cover. We can add phone numbers, acknowledgments. We can modify it so that it suits the needs of the client.
Local phone numbers. So, for instance, here you have one for San Diego County.
Yes.
And you just did another one for San Francisco?
Yes.
And how would that be different?
Well, the phone numbers in the San Francisco edition are applicable just to San Francisco. And then they also modified some of the chapter content so that references to local community resources are mentioned in the book for the community.
All right. Well, I want to let folks know a lot more about this, and for information and an update on the Chariot Fire disaster preparedness and the Red Guide to Recovery and where you can get it, go to kpbs.org. Sean Scotts, thanks so much for this timely update.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
State prison realignment means more inmates are returning to San Diego County sooner. Many of them end up back in prison because they lack the resources to make a successful transition. A new resource available through San Diego's 211 system is designed to bridge the gap. From helping struggling families with resources for food, to veterans in need of support, or family members caring for an aging parent and not sure where to turn, the 211 hotline helps people get connected to the services they need. Sheriff Bill Gore hopes adding resources for inmates being released back into the community helps lower the recidivism rate.
95% of these people are coming back to our neighborhood, so let's give them the chance to be successful.
Gore says the training starts inside the jails on how to use the website tools to make for a better transition.
We're not naive enough to think we're going to turn all these people into perfect citizens, but we don't. If we just lower that recidivism rate from 70% to 50%, we'll be a gigantic success, and we'll keep crime rates down, and we'll have safer neighborhoods.
The website already provides over 6,000 connections to community services ranging from health, jobs, housing, and disaster services. John Ohanian is with 211 San Diego.
211 is a free number. It's a simple call, but it's more than that. It's a stigma-free environment. It's a confidential service, and it's staffed by culturally competent and trained staff.
And now it's added another group in need of assistance, former inmates trying to straighten out their lives with the help of community partners. 211's phone service provides information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in more than 150 languages. For more information about the reentry program, go to their website, 211sandiego.org. A hunger strike is underway at many California state prisons. The Corrections Department says more than 30,000 inmates have refused at least one meal to protest conditions in solitary confinement at Pelican Bay in Northern California. It's the third hunger strike in 2 years. A group of refugee patients picketed outside UC San Diego Medical Center in Hillcrest today, protesting what they say is poor access to language services at the hospital. They carried signs saying, "To speak to me is to heal me," and "No child should have to interpret." Each slogan was translated into Swahili or Somali, a favor they say the hospital isn't returning.
At the Shiley Eye Center, we've heard that patients have been told not to schedule appointments if they don't have interpreters. We've also heard about procedures happening without the consent or the full understanding of the patient. You know, someone signing a paper but not knowing what they're signing.
UCSD says it has 5 Spanish language interpreters on site and a teleconferencing system with services in 150 languages. The hospital says they will work with the group. Federal investigators have now talked to the pilots in Saturday's jet crash at San Francisco International, and the pilots said they were relying on automated cockpit equipment to control their speed during final approach. Investigators have already said the plane was flying too low and slow for landing when it crashed. The interview with the pilot now raises the question of whether there was an equipment problem. 19 sets of firefighting gear lined a stage in Arizona today where thousands of firefighters gathered to honor members of an elite hotshot crew killed by a wildfire last week. Vice President Joe Biden called the 19 men of uncommon valor. North County voters recently passed a measure giving them power to control future development in Encinitas. Peggy Pico explains the good and bad of ballot box zoning.
Ballot box zoning in San Diego dates back to the early 1970s when beach communities voted for control over vertical height limits. Encinitas just passed Proposition A's right to vote initiative. So now voters and not city officials will decide the fate of proposed development projects that are bigger, denser, or higher than current law allows. But is it a better plan to build your community through direct democracy, or should it be left up to city planners and elected officials? Here to help answer those questions are former city architect and now professor Michael Stepner and Bruce Ehlers, a spokesperson for Encinitas Proposition A. Welcome.
Thank you.
Bruce, in June, Encinitas voters passed Prop A, which gives residents there now the right to vote on new development projects that are, I guess, controversial, one might say. Why do you think that's necessary?
Well, it actually is necessary because in previous attempts to look at increased housing densities or increased heights, the city staff came to conclusions or proposals that angered and outraged quite a few people in Encinitas. And the last resort was to go to drove the residents to a last resort that was the ballot box planning approach.
So they weren't happy with what was being planned or what basically was being approved. So Mike, now the Encinitas City Council, they didn't support Prop A because they said that the city would no longer be able to meet its state mandated goals for affordable housing. Is that a valid concern when you have ballot box development?
Well, I think one of the concerns is that there sometimes are overriding ordinances or legislation like the affordable housing, which is thrown into sort of a state of confusion about whether it overrides or doesn't override, and that has to be worked out. But it also speaks to the fact that sometimes ballot box planning locks you into solutions that may limit you from doing something you really want to do later on without a long, extensive process.
For example, give us an example of that.
Well, it may be that somebody, in the case of Encinitas, comes in and wants to do something that's a little bit higher, a little more intense use. They will have to go through the process, and it may not be a process because of the way sometimes we work, where a full discussion goes on. It's really related to sound bites, and that becomes polarizing. And some
kind of slogans that people get
right.
onto, no heights. Let me ask you this, though, Michael, continue with this, and I'll come back to you on this. How do you get those mandates met, then, if the voters say, no, we don't want these, let's say in PB back in the 70s, we don't want these big, tall buildings. We don't want 100 extra units here.
Well, I think that's going to be an interesting question that has to be answered, and I think we'll see that attorneys have a lot of role to play in all of this, to see what is really affected and how the rules really work, and I don't have an answer for that.
Well, Bruce, aren't there policies in place now to make sure that the development process in the county follows the general plan?
Yes, and we are in support of the current general plan. In fact, Proposition A only addresses increases over and above the current general plan. So it's increases in height or intensity or density that would trigger a requirement for a vote of the people.
Do you, Bruce, know of other developments in progress right now that are also sort of illustrating the concern that voters want to basically have a voice in what's happening?
I think in Encinitas, the triggering event was most definitely the comprehensive general plan update that the city has been going through for a couple of years now. And it was those initial conclusions that they had two committees go through this process, and the first committee made some recommendations that were so egregious that there was an online petition circulated within New Encinitas of 1,200 people, and that was presented to the council, and the council literally threw out the initial group, and they started a second group that went through a very similar process of outreach, again staff-led, came to a very similar conclusion, and that's when we realized we had to act.
It wasn't going to be decided by the city. Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, I know that Lilac Hills in Valley Center, it's a proposed development. There's 1,700 homes being proposed by a developer to be built in what the county has zoned for 1,700 homes, so more than 1,000, and the county has zoned 110 homes. This seems like a perfect setup for when people would want to come out and vote and saying, look, you're not going according to the county plan.
Well, Peggy, let me do this first. Let me give you some disclosure. I was called to advise on the design of that project a number of years ago, and I looked at that, not taking into account what the zoning called for, but just the design of the project. I think it is in conflict. It is different than what the community plan calls for, and what the goals of the community plan were to develop everything around the town center rather than in the edges. But the developers are making a case that this really meets the need of the community in terms of the additional housing that's going to be required here in the next 15, 20 years. 325,000 housing units are projected by Sandag to be needed to meet our growth. I think what needs to happen is really that discussion and that debate about why this is appropriate or inappropriate versus trying to ramrod it through, and I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but and then not having the discussion, which causes the backlash, which leads to the frustration that leads to a ballot initiative. Yeah. We heard in our earlier discussion this morning, Bruce and I participated in, that sometimes ballot box planning is sort of the ramrod or the lever to break the political gridlock that needs to be done in order to move forward.
We're out of time, so I'm going to have to end it there, but I want to let folks know there's a whole lot about this discussion on our website, kpbs.org. Mike Stepner and Bruce Ehlers, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
A few blocks of City Heights were treated to a rowdy celebration this morning. It was the 8th year Monroe Clark Middle School 6th graders paraded 2 blocks to Rosa Parks Elementary with puppets and a marching band. The school works with local police and the San Diego Guild of Puppetry to make the event special for incoming 6th graders.
So it's a message to them to say, hey, we're welcoming you, we want you here, you're important not only to our school, but to the whole community, and so we do this parade to go down and pick them up and bring them over.
The school's principal says the parades is the transition to middle school for students and their parents. Monroe Clark 6th graders worked for several weeks on puppets and masks for today's parade.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next news hour, the dispute over the multi-billion-dollar settlement after the Gulf oil spill. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
3D printers can be used to create many different things, from medical devices to works of art. Tonight, KPBS culture reporter Angela Carone introduces us to a North County artist using modern technology to preserve ancient sculptures.
These sculptures are not what they seem. They aren't antiquities owned by a wealthy collector. They aren't in a museum collection. And what looks like bronze or stone is actually plastic. These sculptures were all made by Cosmo Wenman using a consumer-grade 3D printer. Many of them are copies of ancient works of art.
This particular piece is called Head of a Horse of Selena, and it's in a corner of the roof of the Parthenon itself. And the original is in white marble.
These horse heads are bigger than what is normally printed on these machines.
and so I decided to cut the design into a bunch of different pieces. This is actually 29 separate pieces that I printed individually and then assembled. And these are both life-size, 1-to-1 with the original. They both weigh about 8 pounds each, and maybe about $150 worth of material.
We asked Wenman to show us how the printer works. We decided to make a small version of an artwork San Diegans are familiar with.
So we're making a miniature test print of Barbara Hepworth's 1960 figure for landscape, which I scanned at the San Diego Museum of Art.
Wenman begins by photographing the artwork he's selected.
When I'm taking the photos, I take low angles, medium angles, high angles of the entire, all 360 sides, so I can get every detail.
Wenman has photographed antiquities in museums here in the States and in Europe. Sometimes he takes up to 1,000 photographs of just one sculpture, which has drawn the attention of museum security guards.
They're used to seeing enthusiastic photographers, so I imagine I might look like just a particularly nutty one taking a lot more photos than most.
The photographs get run through a software program that creates a virtual 3D design that the printer can read. That information is put on a memory card, which is inserted into the 3D printer. Turn it on, and it starts building.
So this is essentially a hot glue gun on a printer axis. It can move left, right, up and down, forward and back. There's plastic feeding down to it from above on a spool, and it's depositing the plastic on a layer on a platform, and it's going to move down, deposit another layer, move down, deposit another layer, and build the thing from the bottom up.
Because this is a small print, it was done in about 45 minutes. The Hepworth sculpture is not the kind of artwork Wenman typically prints. He mostly sticks to antiquities. I asked him why.
2 reasons. There's lots of them. I like them. And they're copyright free.
Antiquities are in the public domain. A museum may own the work, but if the copyright has expired, anyone can copy it. Some museums, like the Smithsonian, are in the process of capturing or digitizing select pieces in their collection for 3D modeling. Wenman is hoping they share that information with the public so they can download it.
It is now possible to mass digitize sculptural art, and people will download what they want and share what they already love and want other people to see, and other people will remix them in interesting, novel ways.
Wenman says 3D copies of famous artworks offer plenty of educational possibilities.
Just to be able to have hands-on access to a model, whether it's an art history class or an art class or a history class, or now I can finally show my art students this model up close, where I would have had to pay $500 for a resin model from the museum gift store. People will find their own uses.
Wenman recently showed one of the printed horse heads at the big Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas.
But at one point, I looked over and I saw somebody actually had their hands all over it, was like exploring it with their hands, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope they don't break it or something. And then he turned around and I realized he was blind.
That was an application Wenman never thought of.
And that person would never have been able to explore the original marble in the British Museum. That just would not happen.
And that's what's so exciting about this new technology. It could inform how we interact with art and how we preserve the world's cultural heritage for future generations. Angela Carone, KPBS News.
How cool is that? Well, we may see some thunderstorms around parts of San Diego tomorrow. Coastal temperatures mostly in the 70s for the next few days, upper 80s for the inland valleys, with a slight chance of thunderstorms overnight Wednesday. In the mountains, thunderstorms possible through Friday and into the weekend. Stormy weather will give the desert a break from the heat on Thursday, but temperatures expected to climb again by Friday. Recapping some of tonight's top stories, San Diego City Council has approved an ordinance on the retail sale of puppies, kittens, and rabbits. It says the animals must come from shelters or pet rescue organizations, and stores would have to keep documentation on where the animals come from. The code change does not apply to small breeders. Humane Society and other animal welfare groups say the law is needed to stop the spread of so-called puppy mills. City officials say there are only 2 retail stores in San Diego that will be affected. More changes in the Padres front office. President and CEO Tom Garfinkel is stepping down, but the team's not saying why. He was chosen when sports agent Jeff Moorhead tried to buy the Padres last year, but the deal fell apart and a different group bought the team. His job will temporarily be taken over by Ron Fowler, a member of the new ownership group. Padres are at the bottom of the National League West with 40 wins and 50 losses. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app, all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.